Hello students, this is Sumit Kumar, Assistant Professor, BBA Department, Marwari College, Ranchi. Here I am about to present the new lecture on the topic WTO, World Trade Organization, which belongs to the subject International Marketing. And BBA International Marketing is taught in the semester 6, which is the final semester. WTO is an international organization which was formed for promotion of trade and for cooperating with other international organizations operating for facilitation of open trade at global level. As we have discussed in earlier lectures about IMF and World Bank, which are the financial institutions operating at international level for supporting international trade. WTO is a young institution compared to other international institutions. It is the successor of GATT, General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, which was formed in the wake of Second World War. And after several rounds of meeting, in the Uruguay round meeting, the members of GATT agreed to form WTO, World Trade Organization, and that meeting concluded in the year 1994, and WTO was established in the year 1995. Right now there are 164 plus member nations which are part of WTO, and they carry out 98% of the world trade. The Secretariat of WTO is situated at Geneva with 630 staffs. These 630 staffs are headed by Director General. But here it is important to note that the Secretariat has no decision-making role. The decisions are taken by the members of WTO. The top level body in WTO is Ministerial Conference, and whose meeting takes place in 2 years. Next level body is General Council, and after this level there are other councils like Goods Councils, Services Council, Intellectual Property Rights Council, and other specialized committees for the functioning of WTO. Now we move to the next part, which is about functions of WTO. So the first and foremost function of WTO is trade negotiations. Trade negotiations means it provides a platform to all the member nations to negotiate and agree upon terms and conditions related to business areas. Next function of WTO is giving a platform for meetings to be conducted for establishment of agreements between the member nations regarding trade issues. We will discuss about few of the agreements, important agreements established by WTO for promotion of international trade in the coming section. Next important function of WTO is settlement of disputes trade related disputes between the member nations. It helps member nations in settling the disputes. The government of those countries which think their trade related rights are infringed, they move to WTO for settling their disputes. The next function of WTO is monitoring of trade policies. Monitoring of trade policies of member nations, how they are functioning, how their policies are working for their nation, and these government take this monitoring as a feedback for betterment of their economy. The next function of WTO is providing technical assistance to member nations. If the member nations are investing in new projects or establishing new units or getting involved themselves or their companies in foreign investments, then technical assistance is provided by WTO, as well as training is also provided to delegates of member nations. The next function of WTO is cooperation with other international organizations. It cooperates with other international organizations like IMF and World Bank for the betterment of international trade and promotion of international trade. Now we'll discuss about few of the important agreements entered into by the member nations of WTO. The first agreement is related to goods, and this one is the umbrella agreement, which was said as umbrella agreement because it was the foremost agreement taken place between the member nations. This agreement in itself contains agriculture related policies, rules regarding products, standards, subsidies to be given by the member nations to their domestic companies, and protection against dumping. Now, what is dumping? Dumping takes place when any nation or country where, because of certain kind of advantages, the cost of production is low, they dump cheaper products in offshore or foreign markets at low price, and because of that the offshore companies has to face fierce competition. So this particular section related to goods agreement provides protection against dumping. The next agreement is related to services. As we know, services are of imperishable nature, and at present, if we go by statistics, services are the major earners for any country. The service industry in itself includes telecommunication industry, hospitality industry, banking industry, insurance industry, and now there are no boundaries for foreign investments in these sectors. So purpose of service related agreements are that the trade should be open and fair. The policies of all the companies should be fair. The next important agreement is related to intellectual property rights. This right is related to protection of ideas and inventions and keeping their originality intact. If something has been invented in a particular country, it's required that that is not copied or imitated by the name of other company in other country. So these rights are known as intellectual property rights, and the purpose of this agreement is to protect trademarks, copyrights and other related rights which are of which protects creativity of the company or the person from which it originates. The next important agreement is related to dispute settlement mechanism. WTO provides dispute settlement mechanism to all the member nations. If the member nations think that as per the WTO agreements their rights are infringed by any of the country or companies belonging to any of the countries, then they can move to WTO for settlement of disputes. The next important agreement is related to trade policy monitoring of member nations. As per the agreement, WTO monitors the trade policies implemented in member nations so that the purpose of formation of this organization and the different agreements can be achieved. It's very beneficial for the member nations because if there are any loopholes, these are identified by the specialized bodies and committees of WTO, and these are taken as feedback by the member nations. So dear students, this was all in brief about WTO, its functions, its organization and the important agreements entered into between the member nations for the betterment of trade in this era of globalization. Hope you will like it, and you are about to learn new things in this lecture. Thank you.